Welcome back. Well, on Monday, a riot broke out at Long Bay Jail and police and riot officers were forced to deploy tear gas to bring inmates under control. Overhead footage showed inmates spelling out BLM or Black Lives Matter, but authorities believe the riots weren't in solidarity with the movement, but rather drug-related.
We believe it's more likely that the original fight started as a result of drugs not getting into the centre. Social visits, as you mentioned, are stopped, and intelligence indicated that it was planned for a drone to drop drugs over the wall on the day, which didn't occur due to heightened staff vigilance. So what we have here is, again, a fight between Indigenous inmates with respect to a lack of drugs within the jail system.
The Corrective Services Commissioner for New South Wales, Peter Severin, joins me now live from Sydney. Thank you for your time, Commissioner. Look, very early in the pandemic, we were told that one of the likely consequences of national border closures would be an interruption to drug supply. Indeed, some drug services for addicts even warned them that they better stock up. Now, in prisons, of course, lack of visitor access has also meant supplies being hit. What's been your experience in prisons in New South Wales concerning illicit drug access over this COVID period?
Yeah, we certainly had a situation where quite clearly drugs didn't come in through visits anymore. That's resulted in a whole range of issues. We had a bit of unrest in a number of places, the most recent one obviously at Long Bay yesterday. We also had people trying to manipulate mail by tampering with envelopes, trying to smuggle drugs in through just the normal mail system. So it is a constant challenge for our staff who deal with it, I might add, very, very positively and constructively. And that's on top, of course, of the challenges that the pandemic presents to us on a daily basis. And so far, I might say, we have been able to actually keep COVID-19 out of our prisons.
In terms of prison behaviour and the chances of rehabilitation, aren't we better off to have drugs out of the prison system and give prisoners the best chance to join programs and rehabilitate so that when they get out we don't have these recidivism rates that we've seen in recent years? Absolutely,
absolutely right. So what we are doing right now is actually identifying how can we continue to keep drugs out of prisons through visitors trying to smuggle them in. We're looking at technology, we're looking at scanning devices that we might be able to deploy once social visits resume. We are in no hurry to have social visits resume. We have a very good program of electronic visits, video visits, using iPad technology and the likes. But at the end of the day, now if you have a drug-free environment, chances are that prisoners will actually be far more motivated to do something constructively about stopping reoffending rather than just simply dealing with their drug habits.
You talk about technology. Do you mean scanners there? What other technology might be used? And I'm pleased to see they still have the visits. It's all by Zoom or something, I presume, but we're keeping the drugs out. Surely that's got to be a big priority.
Very much so. So the video visits are actually through, like you say, Zoom. We use our normal audio-visual devices. We also use tablets that we were able to rapidly deploy. We had something like 35,000 visits since we started the program, and many inmates actually consider that the video visit is a really great way of connecting with their families. They can actually see, in many cases for the first time, what it looks like at home, what the kids' bedrooms look like. They can actually talk with loved ones overseas if they happen to be from other countries doing time here in New South Wales. So the devices that we're looking at very clearly are scanners, a combination of what is called milliwave, which some use that is already made in some of the airports, right through to X-ray technology. We are licensed to use X-ray technology. It's very harmless, so it doesn't actually present any danger to people. It is less exposure to X-ray than a flight from Brisbane to Sydney would be, for example. So all of those type of initiatives arise clearly from the COVID situation, and we would like to preserve those going into the future.
When's the government going to make a decision on the scanners? I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. I'm sure there's a cost involved, but it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, obviously I can't talk on behalf of government here, but I'm very confident that the government very quickly will consider the matter, and we obviously provided advice. and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to roll out a program of those type of devices coming into our, at least into our maximum security, medium security prisons, a bit different in minimum security, but quite clearly they are really, really useful when it comes to keeping drugs out of prisons through visitors.
Just in reference to the drug habits of some of these prisoners and the addictions that are maintained, sadly, while they're in incarceration, you'd think that's not the case, but clearly that's been the experience. They would be through the worst of their withdrawal from their drugs, I would presume, now 3 to 4 months of lockdown with no visitations and no drugs in the prison system. If you've broken the back of it, this is a very rare opportunity to do your best to keep drugs out of prisons in New South Wales, isn't it?
Absolutely right. Yeah, and of course, unfortunately, those type of attempts to get contraband into prisons try to find new ways. The Minister, in the opening comments that he made, talked about drones being used to smuggle drugs in. As I mentioned, we also have mail. We had a significant increase in people trying to manipulate their mail. And no doubt they'll try to find every other opportunity to get drugs into the system. What we need to do is combat that, but also offer some really positive alternatives. And those that actually are off the drugs, anecdotal evidence confirms that they're actually responding better to programs. You know, they're more motivated to participate, and quite naturally. So we would like to harness that and build on that experience. In doing so, of course, we don't underestimate the value that visits have. We would like to introduce them at a time when it's safe to do so, but we also would like to do it in a way that actually keeps the drugs out of jail.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all strength to your arm, Peter Severin. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Peter.